So in the last video, I basically covered every team that I thought probably was going to miss the playoffs this year and the teams that I expected to be some of the worst in the league. Now we're starting with the Indiana Pacers as a team that I think very much has a shot to be a playoff caliber team. Now going through my power rankings, they don't end up being that by the end of it, but I do genuinely believe that the Pacers have a shot at this. Hello everybody, welcome to Austin Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already and drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference in how the video performs in the YouTube algorithm. Also go check out my Spurs My NBA series if you have not already. It would be much appreciated. Now the Indiana Pacers were actually a team that I watched quite a bit last year because I really quite enjoy the offensive scheme that they have, just purely from an entertainment point of view. Everything is essentially built around Tyrese Haliburton and him setting these guys up to finish plays, surrounded by like Buddy Hield, Miles Turner, Benedict Mathurin even, who's a really good threat off ball. For the most part, really good at just setting these guys up and them knocking it down. That said, that type of offensive scheme is one that I've always been super critical of. It's one that I can enjoy, but ultimately when it comes to time to win, I don't think having your lead playmaker be pretty much your only playmaker, I don't think that's a good thing whatsoever. It can result in a solid playoff spot. It can result in maybe a first or second round exit. So that said, let's talk about what the Pacers can do, and I do think the system that they have put around Tyrese is one that is going to work even better this year. I really like the addition of Obi Toppin specifically. That's why he is in the thumbnail. I have been a big fan of Obi ever since I saw him in the NBA. Something that I would say basically anytime I talked about the Knicks was Obi is just not in the right spot for his career, like whatsoever. Obviously they drafted him not knowing that Julius Randle was actually going to be a future star level player for them, and it just became kind of awkward when, yeah, they gave him that starting spot, kind of intending for him to fizzle out, and then he had the best season of his career by a large mile, and it was, I believe, an all-NBA performer. So that just led to Obi Toppin being a backup, and when he was a backup, being pretty much oriented to being a three-point shooter. Now his three ball ended up being a little bit better than it was projected to be in the NBA, so kudos to him for that and like adapting to the role to still be pretty playable. But by far the biggest skill that Obi Toppin has as a player is jumping near the basket and catching the ball as long as it's also near the basket. Like, this guy is a ridiculous lob target. He's a ridiculous play finisher off of the cut, off of a pick, whatever it may be. A really good playmaker paired with a really good lob target results in a lot of easy points. I'm not saying that Obi Toppin is going to be like Blake Griffin, but it does remind me quite a bit of the Chris Paul-Blake Griffin relationship, where it was just throw that shit up there relatively close to the rim and that's all you really need. You don't even need to be that accurate. But then if you take a point guard who's an excellent playmaker like Tyrese Haliburton, well, then it is a deadly combination. Unfortunately, it seems as though Buddy Hield is going to end up being traded by the Pacers, which I don't love. I do like his spot in Indiana. I think he should be there longer term, but he is an older player, probably trying to compete for championships. Older player isn't like he's pretty close to 30 if he hasn't crossed that threshold already. And he is really good and a really excellent three-point shooter, but I think sometimes he wants a little bit too many touches, and I think it's also like contract disputes that are going on here. So I would like to see him stay there. I like his fit next to Tyrese Haliburton. I just like Buddy Hield in general. I think a lot of people don't take into consideration the fact that Buddy Hield is one of the greatest three-point shooters of all time. Like, if you look at his numbers, he just objectively is. He has the percentage, he has the volume, he has the variance in his shots. Dude's an all-time great three-point shooter. Buddy Hield anecdote aside, they also drafted another power forward in 2023. Well, they traded for the pick. They ended up getting Jarris Walker, who from my understanding is a defensive-oriented guy, and it's really going to be the clash of the defense versus the offense for the most part as for who gets that power forward spot, because Obi Toppin probably a more well-rounded offensive player, Jarris Walker much better of a defensive player. That's not to say that he doesn't have offensive skills. I saw him briefly in the summer league. I don't really know a ton about him though, so I'm not really going to project too much. That's the one thing that will always be missing from these season previews, and I don't really know what to expect out of these rookies unless it's like, you know, Victor Wembanyama. But yeah, he is definitely someone to keep an eye on. They also had a late draft pick with Ben Shepherd. I don't know anything about about him, but hopefully he can bring something positive to the table. And just looking at their roster in general, Benedict Mathurin is someone who I felt was a little overrated. You could argue that him getting that starting spot over Buddy Hield will maybe unlock him a little bit. They obviously signed Bruce Brown this offseason, which also kind of makes Buddy Hield not that necessary. Bruce, I think, is interesting because he does make for a great play finisher, cutting back door, catch and shoot threes, things like that. But he had these moments with the Denver Nuggets where he was the ball handler, and that worked quite well. So I wonder how much he's going to get those opportunities in Indiana. On one hand, I feel like he would get more of those opportunities because he, got a lot of money and they would like him to exceed the value of that contract, and on-ball opportunities could be a way to do that. But at the same time, he also got those opportunities because A, there was no backup point guard, and B, Nikola Jokic, while a great playmaker, is not a ball-dominant playmaker. He doesn't, dribble the ball for most of the possession as Tyrese Halliburton will. So I imagine he'll actually get less of those opportunities, which is a little disappointing, but ultimately it's a very good pickup for Indiana. Miles Turner, I sat next to on a train at an airport in Las Vegas. I didn't say anything. I was just like, that's fucking Miles Turner. Cool. Aaron Nesmith is a guy that I like a lot more than most. I feel like he's kind of gotten an unfair reputation. I do think he can still be a solid enough 3-and-D player. He just kind of has those like dumb moments every once in a while, but I think as you slowly wean those away, what ultimately is going to come of it is a pretty good 3-and-D player. So last year, the Indiana Pacers were the number 19 offense and number 26 defense. I do think it's possible they improve defensively, especially with their rookie power forward, but I especially think it's possible that they improve offensively with the addition of Bruce Brown and Obi Toppin. I do think that should hopefully just make for more of that play finishing working out. I imagine Obi Toppin, if he's not starting, he would be competing for Sixth Man of the Year. I'm a big fan of this Pacers roster. That said, they won 35 games last year, and I would guess that they probably only improved that by at the absolute maximum 8 games, which isn't nothing, but it's also, an 8-game improvement from 35 wins is still just barely over 500 by 1 game. So still not a good team, to be clear, but a fun team. I really, really enjoy the way that their offense works. Really, really like Tyrese Halliburton. We were born on the same exact day, so shout out to him for being born the same time as me. Good job on that front. But yeah, I like Indiana. Probably not going to be that good though. So there's my analysis. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, and goodbye.